All right, what's going on, y'all? So today we're going to talk about alcohol and how alcohol specifically affects the body and the physique. You know, how you can have a great physique while drinking alcohol, how it affects the mind, and then also how it can affect your spiritual life as well. This is something that I've got a lot of experience with. I've gone through many phases throughout my life where I did very, very heavy amounts of drinking, very moderate amounts of drinking, and then also no drinking at all. And so I'm going to tell you exactly how it's affected my life and how it can affect your life. From everything, from your physique to your mind to your spiritual life. This is something that I get asked literally anytime I do an Instagram Q&A. I get asked several questions on alcohol. How much does it affect the physique? You know, how to work it in a plan. Now I get asked this, by many clients that will come to me and they want to know, how they can have their diet plan that sets up for their performance or physique goals while still having, some drinking in place. So, the other day I got asked a question on what did it take to finally get a really good set of abs? How did I finally get an 8-pack, a 6-pack? And so this is something that was a goal of mine for a long time. I started training back when I was a teenager. And when I was a teenager, one of the heavy goals was to have really, really good abs. So I trained abs for years, literally training abs, was, really, really watching my diet. In college, I went through a really, really heavy phase of drinking, partying a lot and all of that. But then after college, when I was making fitness a really, really heavy part of my life, an important part of my life, I still didn't have this crispy set of abs. I definitely had the muscles built, and you could see faded abs, but it was like no matter what I did, there was this, level of fat over my abs. Even if I was tracking my diet, really, really bringing my calories down low, it was like no matter what I did, I could never have a crispy set of abs like I had the goal of. There was a period of time several years ago, probably about 8 years ago now, where, during this time, I'd get in from a run, I'd have, maybe a beer or, I'd have a glass of whiskey, maybe once or twice a week. By no means was I a heavy drinker during this period. It was maybe 5-6 drinks per week, which, that's a pretty moderate amount. But with this, I was super clean with my diet across the board besides the drinking. And it was like, no matter what I could do, I could never get the crispy set of abs. There was a period of time that I decided to take a few weeks off from drinking. It wasn't like a dry January, anything like that. It was very casual. There was no kind of, big reasons why I needed to do that. It wasn't affecting my relationships. It wasn't affecting really my life in much of a negative way. I just decided to take a break from it. During this time, literally 2 to 3 weeks into taking a break from drinking, for the first time in my life, my abs came out crispier than they had ever come before. So it kind of rang a light bulb in my head of, this might be doing more than what I thought it was doing. I was tracking the calories of each drink I did at the time. So, the calories in, calories out thing, it really kind of wasn't applying here in the same way with alcohol. So point is once I stopped drinking, I got that crispy set of abs. And so this is something I've seen across the board with working with so many clients. They can be so on point with their training, so on point with their diet. And alcohol will still create a level of water weight. And then some people it can actually help you hold more fat than what you would want. And the reason why it's doing this is even 1 or 2 drinks is going to decrease your testosterone, is going to convert to estrogen a little bit more. You're going to hold a little bit more estrogen. You're going to have some inflammation and water weight. It does affect the physique. So even if you're having a little bit, while this doesn't, like let's say you've already got a great physique. It's not something that's going to ruin your physique. Having a few drinks here or there is not going to ruin your physique, but you probably will be able to see this in the mirror pictures for a day or two after you even have a couple drinks. It does affect the physique if you are going for, the most peak physique ever. Now, I know there's going to be people out there that say, oh, well, I drink and I have an incredible physique. This affects everybody slightly differently, but I can tell you across the board, if you cut out drinking, period, you will have a much sharper physique consistently than if you have even a small amount of drinking in place. So, it affects a whole cascade of events from, it's not just the calories in, calories out, like what people like to say. The people say, just track the amount of calories you're drinking. You only have to kind of factor that into your day, but you're not considering then what it does across the board to your testosterone levels, your estrogen, the stress it puts on the body. They're finding now, where it kind of was popular growing up, where you'd hear, having a glass of red wine a night, or then it became like having 1 to 2 glasses of red wine twice a week could be healthy for you. They're now finding that not just acutely, but also in the long term, even small amounts of drinking is a net negative. There's really no net positive for drinking. And so really what it comes down to is, it's a poison. So how much poison are you willing to accept in your life? And so it affects your body just like a poison. You're going to have more inflammation. You're going to have a little bit of a film of water weight, that it will affect your physique. And more importantly than that, it's affecting your internal health as well. So then not only with, it affecting your physique and then having the problems with like a drop in testosterone, increasing estrogen, it affects sleep. So then what happens is you wake up the next day and you might, maybe you didn't drink that much. Maybe you only had a glass of whiskey. Maybe you only had 1 or 2 drinks. You're not going to be as sharp and on point that next day. Maybe you're not hungover, but you're not as sharp and on point as if you didn't have those drinks at all. So now it's affecting your focus, your sharpness, in your mental space as well. So even if you're not one of these people that gets super hungover, maybe you don't experience depression like some people do. Some people get depressed from drinking alcohol. It can totally affect your sharpness and focus as someone who's super driven. This will affect your drive totally. And then also, taking back to what I just said about it decreasing testosterone a little bit, and increasing estrogen, this also is going to take away from all of that. So, this is one thing I saw back in the day when I was drinking, maybe not heavily, but consistently. My natural testosterone levels were much lower, and you could see it in my face. I was holding more water in my face. I would be lean, but holding more water in my face. My face looked a lot softer because I had more estrogen. And a lot of this was due to me just consistently drinking alcohol. Even if it wasn't every day, my body was never having a chance to turn over, more testosterone and lower estrogen to really, really good, healthy, optimal ranges because of drinking. You got to think, if you have even a couple of drinks, it's not like the next day you're good to go. Maybe you are, if you are one of these people that might have, a drink or two, maybe once a month. That would truly be moderation. You're not going to have a huge, long-term negative effect like that. But if you're one of these people that's even having a few drinks per week, it absolutely is affecting your hormone levels. Hormone levels aren't something that, you're able to get them up super quick. If you lower them, it takes a bit of time in most people to increase them back up. So if you're suppressing with alcohol, you're going to have the effects of negative testosterone. So that affects the body, it affects the mind, and then on a spiritual level. So, 1 Peter 5:8 says, be of sober mind. This absolutely can affect your spiritual life. And, Christ drank wine. Christ's first miracle was turning the water into wine at the wedding. So, we know that, maybe it's not permitted or prohibited for us to drink. But we really should be striving to be of sober mind whenever we can. Because, if you have tried to go into, like, let's say you've got a really locked in set of morning and evening prayers. You've got a really good prayer rule set up. If you go and try to do your evening prayers after you've had a couple glasses of wine or a couple drinks, your prayers aren't going to have the same depth. You're not going to be able to enter that same level of prayer after that. Same thing, if you wake up the next morning and you're a little bit groggy, hungover, or even if you're not hungover, you just don't have that same sharpness and focus, your morning prayers are now going to be affected as well. And this isn't to even touch on the fact that, a lot of people's personalities negatively change on while they're drinking alcohol. And for many people, alcohol brings out, other sins per se, other temptations of, lust, pride, anger in some people. Alcohol can fuel temptations and passions in other ways that it absolutely can affect your spiritual life. So I'm not here telling you not to drink. I'm just saying there's no positive reason to drink. Anything that you are convincing yourself in your head or justifying it, it's not a positive. It's really just accepting how much poison are you willing to to allow in your life, and have, it is a poison. It's going to affect your body negatively. It's going to affect your mind negatively, and it absolutely will affect your spiritual life negatively as well. So it's really just you justifying how much poison you want in your life. And I'm not here telling you guys, never, never, never drink. I still, to this day, will very, very, very rarely, it's very rare. We're talking maybe once or twice in an entire year, I'll have a drink or two. It's extremely rare, but I'm not telling you never to drink. I'm just saying if you have performance or physicals, if you want to stay as driven and focused as possible, and be the best man or woman you can be, and then two, your spiritual life is something really important to you, this would be something I'd really, really, really caution you about. Even a moderate amount can negatively affect one or all of those factors, your body, mind, or soul. So I hope this was of help to some of you guys. You can totally have a great life and fun without, frankly, getting a buzz or getting a high. You can be of sober mind and have much more deeper levels of peace. And truly too, if this is where you are, secure and, you are true to yourself and authentic to yourself, you're going to be happy being sober. So it's one of those things too. Are you using this as a Band-Aid to cover up some other pain? You need to have a vice to have fun. This is something to look inwardly with yourself too, if you have trouble giving up even a small amount of alcohol. But hope this is of some encouragement to you guys. If you can, please go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. All glory to God. God bless y'all. Have a great rest of your day.